We are running up and running here on everything that is going. So, John, nope, wrong link, my friend. Wrong link. I just emailed it to you. So let me grab that again, John. You know, sometimes in live radio, strange things happen. I don't really know what happened here. It just seemed to happen. Yeah. So while we're waiting for John here, the one thing that I love about Utah is that we really always have some sort of snafu going on. We really do. One second here. John, check your email. There is a new email link from me here. There we go. All right. The beauty of StreamYard that we use in order to kind of use multifaceted areas here is we can quickly email a new link in there and get things going. So John will be with us here momentarily. I think what happened, to be blunt with you, is I think when Dirty Fylth exited, he accidentally hit the wrong button. I really do. So our cartoonist Dirty Fylth, I think I'm blaming him on this one. I'm totally blaming him on this one. But let's get right back to skinwalkers here for a second. Why are we not allowed to say the term skinwalker?
It's just taboo, especially with First Nations where you're from, and Native Americans here where I'm from. In the same way that, you know, there's a lot of cultures have different things that are taboo to say. You kind of draw them into you if you say them, and skinwalkers is one of those. In fact, I have a story that's coming in my my new books, Stranger Idaho, of a gentleman who got invited with. He worked at a shop, a car shop, with some of the natives from a local the Blackfoot reservation, and he got invited to go camping with them. And while they're camping, one of them brought up, you know, the skinwalkers and used their term for it, which I cannot remember right off the top of my head, which is okay. But as soon as he started saying it, the other two, you know, shut him down and said, "You don't talk about that. You know, you can't talk about that, everything." And then they ended up later that night, when they were all asleep, being visited by basically one of these creatures, and they blamed the guy that had brought it up about it happening. And so it's one of those things where you know, you just don't want to talk about it because it will bring it to you. At least that's the belief along those lines.
Wow. And for the record, people who may be tuning in, a skinwalker is what? A medicine man that's gone bad? Is that what it is?
Yeah. So, and the origins go back to when the if I remember correctly, and if I'm saying this wrong, I apologize to everybody. The Ute tribes, the Ute tribe and the Navajo used to war quite a bit, and it goes along the lines of some of the Navajo medicine men turned to dark magic, basically, to help in those wars versus the Ute tribe and some of the other tribes. And that practice has just continued on, whether it's the same individuals who've lived this long or others that have taken up that mantle, but they're able to transform into other animals. I wish I had the link, but there's a video of a gentleman who videotaped. It looks like a giant panther, black panther, in the desert of, this is in South Dakota, and it disappears kind of right in front of the camera. So, you know, being able to transform like that into either a wolf or some sort of animal like that, and just again, all of the kind of dark that goes along with it. What I find fascinating is that you have that in Native American lore, but then in, you know, your Judeo-Christian Europeans, you have very similar folklore with witches who did the same thing, kind of a deal. They turned to the dark magic, and of course that was also used against different people who just were able to heal as healers, with the various religions as well. But there's just a rich history. But what again is amazing to me is you have these different cultures that were separated by, you know, oceans, didn't have contact with each other, and yet their folklore and their beliefs are very similar, and they have creatures that are very similar, and so there's got to be a reason for that. So,
in your estimation, are there a lot of skinwalkers out there, or are they far and few between?
I think they're far and few between. I think, but I don't know for sure. It would, without somebody trying to do some sort of skinwalker census, I'm not quite sure. I know that wherever you find Native Americans, you kind of find those stories, and they kind of permeate through it. So, I think that's one that would be considered rare. But also, you have a lot of other creatures that I think out there that people are using the blanket term skinwalker, but they're probably not associated with the actual skinwalker. But because of the ranch and because of that explosion of kind of the culture talking about it, there's a lot of things that fall under that umbrella that aren't necessarily skinwalkers.
Well, let me ask you this then. Because obviously you can't sit there and say, well, there's 682 skinwalkers running around Utah. We took a census recently. I mean, you just can't do that.
Right.
But I mean, on the flip side, is the skinwalker legend, is that happening all around the state of Utah, or is that really central in the Uinta Basin?
So it's actually all over, like, the western United States, to be honest, because I've got collected stories about skinwalkers from southern Utah, and Nevada, Arizona, Idaho. So they're really kind of spread out, those stories of skinwalkers, and other tribes have different names for them as well. It's kind of like Bigfoot or Sasquatch. It's we've taken Skinwalker, which is the kind of a translation of a Navajo Ute word that they used to use, that now covers all of that, but it's the same thing from different tribes. They may have different names for them, but yeah, they definitely occur all over, through a lot of the different tribes. And I try, hopefully I'm not offending anybody out there, because I try to speak very respectfully. I have several friends who are natives that help me a lot with understanding their folklore, and they're very secretive about it, because not because it all aspects of their culture, because it's very sacred to them, which I completely understand. And so it's important when I talk about it that I'm being respectful.
I understand that. I mean, in an area like you're in, or an area like I am in, where there is a lot of First Nations culture that is, really, respecting the land, and big areas with that they have in order to kind of, tell their stories and their legends and folklore. Like around my area, the First Nations are really, talk about the star people. I remember asking one elder about it one day, where I said, do you have a lot of Bigfoot sightings around? And he's like, no, not very often. He goes, I just wish the star people would leave us alone for once. They also have a lot of little people sightings, but I've never heard of a skinwalker in this area, and considering if you include the Western United States with Western Canada, where I am, there's a lot of bridging between First Nations people across the border. And a lot of those legends do cross the border. And so I've never really heard that up here, but I guess every territory is different, and that shouldn't be, too surprising.
Yeah, and if you think about every one of the Native American nations, which there was a ton of them. I mean, they spoke their own dialect, their own language. They had their own little subcultures, but a lot of them were very same with the creatures they talked about. Another one that I get quite a few stories is the Wendigo as well. And what's interesting to me is in pop culture, the Wendigo has the deer head and the antlers and the skull and all of this. But when I've interviewed people who have run into what I believe is a Wendigo, they're all just emaciated, almost like a zombie type human person type creature. So that's another one too, where, Wendigo is a word from one of the Eastern tribes, but we use it across to cover all of those certain individual creatures, if that makes sense.
Wendigo, I don't know if we encountered that a couple of weeks ago up where we were, but they are also known for mimicking human voices to try and lure you into the forest.
Yes.
Little people do that. Allegedly, Dogman does that. Have you ever had or received any cases of people having these creatures trying to lure them into areas?
Yeah. So there's two in particular that come to mind, or at least two types that I've interviewed people about. I'll give you an example. There was a gentleman I interviewed when he was in high school. During the summer, he lived in Northern California in, the very wild redwoods kind of area in a small town. And he worked at a convenience store. And when he got off work, him and his buddies would go out to this house, this abandoned house on the edge of town that bordered the woods right there. And they would have a bonfire in the back and just talk. And one night they were out there, excuse me, and they started hearing a woman crying for help out in the woods. And something about it just didn't sound right to the one gentleman that was telling me the story. But his buddy took off running into the woods. And so the other two followed him. And as they made their way out, this voice of this woman kept getting a little bit further and a little bit further away, to the point where they were finally like, you know what, there's something wrong with this. This is wrong. Let's go back. And they started going back. They had one flashlight between the three of them. And as they started back towards the bonfire, the voice again started following them. And at one point they turned to look, and from behind this big tree, this creature came out from behind the tree, and it was just really like rather tall, kind of really skinny, just pale white skin, no hair. Its eyes were red, and it just had a huge slit for a mouth, and it kind of reached around the tree, and it was talking in the woman's voice, but then it morphed into this really weird cackle kind of thing. And they all turned to bolt. Two of them fell down, the other one took off. They finally get up and get out of there. But and they were talking about it. They all saw the same thing: pale, skinny, almost like talons for hands. And so I've interviewed several people who have had very similar experiences where it was the voices in the woods. They were trying to lure them out there. And what's interesting is when I wrote that first story, I almost thought it was a one-off. And then I had several people contact me saying, oh, I had the exact same situation happen with me, a voice trying to draw me out there. And the other one that goes right along with those is when people are children and they're either in an abandoned area or out in the woods, there'll be something that will mimic a older brother or an older cousin, someone that they look up to, that will try and lure them further into the woods, or lure them into an abandoned building, only to find out that wasn't them at all. Their cousin or their brother or whoever was far away from that at the time, and they just got a really bad feeling and left, maybe just in time, who knows. But so those are two very similar situations using different tactics, maybe the same creatures, trying to lure people into the woods, and generally kids too. I'm so sorry, Dave, I can't hear you.
That was my fault because I coughed and I forgot to take my microphone off the cough button. This has been a swell half hour here, showing the great professionalism of what I do.
You're good.
But this happened just a couple of weeks ago to my research partner, Tim, and I. And I will tell you, hearing those voices off in the distance, saying, "Help me, come help me, we're over here." I've never been so puckered up in my life in fear, because it did not sound human, even though it was a human female voice and then a male voice and then the back to the female voice. The monotone tone of the voice was what caught me and my attention right away. And then when in between it's "come help me," it said, "I love you." That's where I was like, this ain't human. And I looked at Tim. I said, this is how people go missing. If we follow those voices, this is how people go missing. And so hearing that, this story that you had about the female voice getting further and further away, getting lured into a forest. I mean, just talking about this right now, I got goosebumps because it freaks me out so much. But just hearing that story and knowing what that voice now sounds like with my own ears, I'm telling you that I don't think there's much creepier than that.
Yeah.
Now, I absolutely fear a dog man. Absolutely fear a dog man. But I can tell you this, I would sooner have an encounter with a dog man than deal with those voices again.
Yeah. It's just it's so creepy, because not only are you having a very strange encounter, but it's something trying to lure you away. I have a theory that the do you know what the uncanny valley is in CGI, where for in particular the movie Polar Express,
right?
Because everybody looks real, but there's something about the eyes that kind of creeps you out. So my theory is that we all have that. Oh, sorry, you're going to probably have to go to.
Let's go to break. Hold that thought, because I want to get to that in the next half hour. Author John Olsen, Strange Utah, stranger as it seems. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Excuse me. Yeah, sorry about that. I had a frog in my throat that I was trying to clear and it wouldn't clear. So I accidentally forgot to put my mic off. And then, so what happened there, people? Because, John, what happened was when Dirty Fylth left the building, he accidentally hit the end stream button. So we ended the stream on YouTube, but I still had the radio side going. So I had to, at the meantime, I'm thinking, okay, can I do this? How do I do this? Do I have the radio side still going? Yes, we're still going on radio. So I had to quickly build a new show on StreamYard in order to in order to get the audience back in, because I'm reading the chat room and they're like, what happened to the show? What's going on? So that's why I had to send you that other link there. So, I'm like, and then I had this great debate. How do I do this without sounding amateurish on the radio side? And I figured, well, I don't really have a choice. So that's where I had to bring it on up. But we got it cleaned up. Oh, hold on. I got you on mute now. Son of a bitch.
You're okay. You're going to always have hiccups. So.
Oh, man. You know what? The thing is, it's nothing we couldn't cure. You know what I'm saying? So if that's the worst that happens tonight, we're doing absolutely perfect. And no anger towards Dirty Fylth, because he is absolutely amazing at what he does with his art, with booking our guests and everything. And you know what? Mistakes happen. I make them every night. I do. Yeah. So not a big deal.
No.
Apparently my hair looks nice here. Hold on. Let's see if I can spike it up. I'm getting the beard trim tomorrow.
Oh, there you go.
So, there we go.
Oh. So I think you and I are probably close to the same age. Or you probably grew up through the 80s as well. And
I'm 52.
Oh, yeah, and I'm 50, so we're right there. So
yeah.
A little gray in the beard, and
this is more than gray. This has gone full white, man.
Yeah.
I was thinking of actually dyeing it and just having like a skunk stripe going straight down.
Oh, there you go. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
That would be cool.
But no, I like going to my barber, man. He takes good care of me.
Oh, good.
My little town has a bunch of hair salons, and just we needed a barber. You know what I'm saying? We just needed a barber. And so a good friend of mine, Chad, he came into my daytime office one day and he's like, yeah, I used to cut some hair and I'm thinking about opening my own barbershop. I'm like, do it. I said, will you be doing like shaves and everything and beard trims? He's like, oh yeah. I'm like, do it. So he finally got so much positive results. And this is a man, he's a real man of God. He's a preacher on Sundays at one of the local churches. Just a great, great human being. Got a lot of respect for him. And he's a veteran too, which I love.
Oh, wow.
And he opened up his barber shop, and now he is so booked up that he is now taking appointments like 2.5 to 4 weeks in advance.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Because it's not just about the haircut, because you can get your haircut anywhere, but it's the experience, where, for us men, where he actually will do the shaving with the straight blade and the hot towels and cold towels, and he makes it an experience. And his barbershop is like old school, like even his barber chairs. I think the newest one is like 90 years old. Right?
Yeah.
So it's all old school of what he's doing. And it is just a great experience, man. Shout out to the bearded barber. Yeah.
That's awesome.
I'm not shaving my beard, people. I am just getting it curtailed. Okay.
Oh.
So
I tried to do mine long like yours, but it's so curly. I would spend
you
an
just
hour trying
you gotta
to
fight through it, man. Noble Patrick, how you doing? Thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney ×2, T-Bone, my man, Natasha, and Mel WD40 for the lube chat. Here we go with the next half hour in 7 seconds. Here we go, the second half of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us in. Wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth, we're going to bring in John Olsen for the next half hour here as we got him till the top, and we're going to talk Stranger Utah. You can get all of his books on Amazon. Make sure you check that on out. But before we bring John back, let us remind you that our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. John, good to be with you again tonight. Your stories are absolutely incredible. And we were talking about the Wendigo in the last half hour. Another word that we are not supposed to say the name 3 times in a row, like Beetlejuice.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
It's another one.
Why can't we say the name? And I'm not saying this to be sarcastic or bullish to the people, especially First Nations people who take this very seriously. But why can we not say the name 3 times in a row?
Well, again, it's that taboo. You and I were talking during one of the breaks about kind of projecting or, drawing things to you, good or bad, kind of a thing. And I think that falls under like the bad things category. If you're just focusing on it or you're saying the words, it's kind of inviting that into your life or inviting that to come visit you in some cases. And so I think that's why it's mostly taboo, especially those two, Skinwalker and Wendigo.
What is the difference between the two?
So from what I understand, again, the Skinwalker would be a Native American, basically medicine man that's turned to more of a dark side of, doing things. And the Wendigo is an kind of a creature that is made or comes to fruition when somebody has turned to cannibalism and gone that road. It kind of springs to life from that, either from the person that did it or basically just the darkness from doing it begins to do it. Because when I've interviewed people who've run into these creatures, again, they look like emaciated, almost zombie type creatures that just go around trying to eat as much as they can, but can never fill their body. And it has a lot to do with, from what I understand, the fact that if you turn to cannibalism, then you've crossed a line in degrading someone else's body in order to nourish your body, and it just makes for really bad mojo, so to speak. So
oh my, yeah, that's not good.
Yeah,
that's definitely not good when that happens.
Yeah,
lots of terrifying stories that happen in Utah. A lot of it deals with, obviously the legends of Skinwalker Ranch and Bradshaw Ranch, or pardon me, Blind Frog Ranch. I apologize. I mean, we hear of bottomless pits. We hear of aliens coming out of watering areas. We hear of the skies opening up, portals, everything. Do you have any portal stories that you've been able to uncover?
So I have had a few of those portal stories up in the mountains, different places like that. One story that comes to mind, it didn't have a portal, but it obviously had something to do with a creature that came out of a portal. And I'll explain. This gentleman that I interviewed, and in fact, he actually took me in his Jeep up to this area. And I can tell you, it's a very, very kind of weird area. It's very quiet. very unusual area. But he was on a ride. He loves to go up in his Jeep, and he was sitting just having his lunch, and he's in a stand of trees, and there is like a really good heavy path that comes down the hill and across in front of where his Jeep was, and then down and over. And some movement caught his eye, and he looked. And what's funny is when he's explaining this to me, he's trying to get the words out of what this thing looked like. And he said, "Have you ever seen the movie Predator?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course." And he goes, "You know how it looked like it was a refraction of light?" He goes, "That's what it looked like." And it came down from up this side, down, ran right past the front of my Jeep, over, and then disappeared down on the other side. But it was a real creature, because, you know, he could almost, he could hear the footsteps and going, but it was just like in the movie Predator, where it was cloaked almost. And so there's quite a few stories of creatures like that coming out of portals in the woods. It happens at Skinwalker Ranch. They almost open up, and these creatures crawl out and crawl back in, and it's very weird. I have to say, that one, I mean, I would love to see it, but then I would also not like to see it. At least maybe if the creature was crawling inside, I'd be okay with it, but maybe not outside. But again, it goes to the whole thing of, is that why Sasquatch is so hard to find? Is that where these creatures that are trying to lure people in to the forest come and go so easily? It would explain why the Native Americans talk about these creatures being physical beings and spiritual beings all at the same time, because maybe they are able to disappear and go into these portals. So again, it's all with, like we talked about, how everything could be tied together, because UFOs use those portals as well. So
what is the strangest creature you have ever heard of coming out of this Utah in these stories?
So one of the strangest ones, and it's far and away my favorite one too. This gentleman, I met him, and we were talking, and he heard what I did, that I collected strange stories. And it took me I knew as soon as I was talking to him, he got that look in his eye that I recognize now that he has a story. And it took me a long time to get him to tell me this story. But he had, when he was in his early 20s, he came to Cache Valley to visit a friend and fell in love with it, quit his job and moved here because he's such an outdoorsman, hiking and kayaking, skiing, and it's all within 10 minutes of here. So he moved here, and one of the first summers he was here, him and one of his good friends were going to hike up to a place that's called Mount Naomi. It's one of the higher peaks here in Cache Valley, and generally you can do it in one day. It's kind of a long hike, but you can do it in one day. But their plan was to go up as far as they could after work, spend the night, and then finish it, and then come down in the morning. And it was the middle of the week. Well, at the last minute, his buddy canceled on him, and he said, well, being in my early 20s and being, invincible when you're that age, he's like, I'm going to go by myself. It's fine. And so he got up there late, got about halfway there, right near where you would call, the tree line, where trees stop growing and it's more shrubs and stuff like that. And it was getting dusk. So he put out his bedroll. He had his dinner, which was, there was a fire ban because it was in August. And so he just brought food, didn't do a fire, and, watched the stars. And then he would bring a book, read his book, then went to bed. Well, around 3:00 in the morning, roughly, he wakes up, and he said it was really strange because I'm such a heavy sleeper. He said it takes a lot to wake me up. And I didn't know what had woken me up. And I was sitting there, and he's like, I realized, first of all, it was so quiet. And then he starts hearing this whistle kind of a thing. And it's not a bird. Plus, birds don't really sing at night, but it was much more like somebody trying to get his attention whistle. And so he's trying to find his headlamp. He can't find his headlamp. He slips on his boots because he's kind of getting wigged out of what's going on. Where's this whistle coming from? Then all of a sudden he gets hit in the chest with a rock about the size of a quarter, but it wasn't hard. It was just kind of a toss to get his attention, kind of a thing. And the whistling starts again, just off to his right. And he realizes his headlamp is still on his head. So he flips it on and shines it over, and sitting on this rock pile, not very far from him at all, is this creature. And it's the way he explained it, very similar to the creatures in Harry Potter that's in Gringotts, with kind of a green gray skin, very pointy nose, pointy ears, homemade clothes that were very tattered, long fingers, jet black eyes. When he shines his light on it, it puts its hand up to block the light. And he is immediately in shock because this is not normal. And he is very normal guy, like very, very normal guy. And he says, I don't know how long I was staring at it, but I noticed it was moving something. One hand was up and the other hand was moving behind it. And he looked, and he realized that this creature has his book that he was reading when he went to bed in its hand. And
oh my.
He realizes that it's been close enough to have stolen that from him, and it kind of snaps him out of it. And he grabs all his stuff and he runs towards the trail, trips, dumps all his stuff. He's just trying to scoop up his sleeping bag at least, and the whistling starts behind him again. And he just ends up leaving a lot of his stuff and running all the way back to his truck. And but he's like, who do I, you're one of the only people I've ever told that story to. He told me, he goes, because who in their right mind would believe me if I told them that story? He's like, people would think, I'm nuts if I went around and said that. But, in the book, I changed his name. He was very, adamant about that, which I'm fine with doing. But that one really was kind of cool in the fact that when I wrote the story and put it out there, I had 3 people email me saying they had similar experiences in that area. And one was from a lady, and I love this. She says her email title was "Thanks a lot." And basically she said, I had to apologize to my husband because he had come home from elk hunting and said he had seen a creature up there. And she told him he was nuts and laughed at him and everything, only to read my book and realize that other people had seen that very same creature in that area. And she's like, so I had to apologize to my husband. Thanks a lot.
So what did that creature exactly look like? I may have missed that.
So it very much kind of like a troll, or not a troll. If you've seen Harry Potter, the best explanation is the little guys that run the bank, where they have really pointy nose and pointy ears and green gray skin and really long fingers, almost like I'm trying to remember the name. It would be like a goblin, almost like a goblin, like what you would think a goblin would look like when you look it up, with homemade clothes. But it went along with when I did some research, the Native Americans talk about Pugwaji, or the little people that live in so it's very similar to that. So it could be something along those lines is what I'm guessing, something like that. But yeah, it's just really strange, but right along those lines of the Fae and those kinds of creatures that they talk about. So, but yeah, it was hard to get that story and get his permission to put that in a book. I have since long time lost contact with him, but yeah, that was one where he was very reluctant. Obviously, he says, I'm a normal everyday guy. How do you explain something like that to people? So,
well, most people don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
they really don't. I've asked you a number of paranormal and weird stories here. What do you have that you have collected when it comes to alien encounters and UFOs that you'd like to share?
So one of my, I've got several of UFOs. It's in fact the number of stories I get, the highest is ghosts, and then UFOs, and then Bigfoot, and then it goes on down from there. But the one that I really like comes from the Uintas up near where Skinwalker Ranch is. And I interviewed this gentleman, and when he was younger in the 70s, he had a really good friend, and the two of them would spend time in the mountains, and they were looking for that gold that I talked about. There's always stories about gold and lost mines, and so they would go up and spend long weekends hiking and looking for these things. Well, they had hiked way back into this little lake, and they set up camp and had dinner, and they had just gone to bed, and there was a bright light that came, kind of flashed, and then there was this light coming from towards where the lake was. And so they both got up, got their shoes, and they walked down there. And when they got there, it looked like one of those Airstream trailers, the silver Airstream trailers. And that's what they thought they were looking at. They're like, somebody's got a trailer up here. And they could see people walking around through the window, and the door was open, and somebody came to the door and was looking at them. And they were like, they were really mad. They were like, we hiked all the way up in here. Somebody's cut, a road up here. It wasn't here before. And so they were kind of cussing, and they went to bed. And the next morning they got up and had some breakfast. And then they're like, well, let's walk down and see where this road comes in and what's going on. And they got down there, and it's gone. And they get down there, there's no road. And all there is some round pads where the sagebrush was stomped flat. And they're like, oh my gosh, that was a UFO. That was not a trailer that we saw. That was a UFO that we saw.
No way.
Yeah. And so, what I love about that is because not only was it, landed, but they actually saw occupants. I tried to ask them if he had any details, but he said that the light was so bright inside, all we got was silhouette of it. But he's like, yeah, I thought it was an Airstream trailer because it was silver, and I didn't even think UFO because we didn't see it land or anything. But sure enough, in the morning, it's gone. There's no road. It's just smashed sagebrush where it had landed out there. So that was, I believe it was in the early 80s. I believe is what he said. He's a much older gentleman now. So yeah, that one, it's one of my favorite ones of the UFO stories. So
do you have any encounters where people have had multiple happenings at once?
I don't have any of those, because I know that there are stories out there of, say, Bigfoot and UFO stories that kind of coincide together. But I don't really have any of those. One of the ones that I've gotten quite a few in the last few years is glitches in the Matrix type stories, where
Love
things,
those.
yeah, where things just don't fit, anymore, or where your memory doesn't fit reality anymore. The one that really stands out to me was this gentleman who grew up in a small town in Colorado, and he graduated from high school in the early 90s. And after he graduated from high school, he actually traveled for 2 years for the church that his church. He went away for 2 years and came back. He was going to spend the summer working before he went. He got accepted to a college in Utah, and he was working for a company that was helping with dial-up internet. And he got called to this place, and he lived in a smaller town. And he's like, "Oh, I recognize this. This is where my friend Diana lives. You know, I went to school with Diana." And it was an older lady that lived there. And so he helped her with the thing. And he says, you know, do you know, have you always owned this house? And she goes, "Oh, no, I bought it from a year ago from the family. They lost their daughter and then they moved to Arizona." And he's like, "Oh, that's weird." And so he went to the library, and sure enough, he found Diana's obituary. And she had died. She'd had an appendicitis burst and had died. So he even drove to the cemetery and saw her grave and really mourned the loss of his friend. He goes off to school, lives his life. And about 10 years later, I mean, he'd been back before, but at one point, 10 years, he goes back to his mother's house. His mother still lived in there with his wife to go to Thanksgiving, getting ready for Thanksgiving dinner. And his mom's like, "I forgot the whipped cream. Can you please run up to the store?" They had a little store in town. And he goes, "Yeah, I'll run up." And so he goes up to the store, and it's kind of crowded with people getting stuff. And he walks around the corner, and he runs into a cart, or the cart runs into him. And he looks up to apologize and looks into Diana's face. Diana's right there with a little kid. And he's like, and she's like, "Oh, I haven't seen you in forever," and gives him a hug. And he's kind of like, "Hi, what's going on?" He's like, Didn't I hear that you were really sick right out of high school?" And she was like, "Oh, I had an appendicitis. It almost burst. It was really close. I almost died from the infection, but I made it." And he leaves the store, doesn't buy the stuff, drives to the cemetery. There isn't a grave there anymore. Her grave's gone. He remembers the grave. He remembers reading the obituary, but she is now alive and she has kids, and nobody else remembers it that way. And he's like, "It wasn't a dream. I remember it. I even remembered it throughout the years talking about the loss of my friend." So that's one where maybe he's in a different universe. Maybe he skipped, maybe something. I don't know, but it's really weird.
We've got about 45 seconds left with you tonight, John. Thank you so much for being here with us. It's been a pleasure. 30 seconds. Tell everybody where they can find your books and information on you.
Yep. All my books, Stranger Bridgerland book series, is on Amazon with Kindle, softback, Audible, and my new book is out next week, Stranger Idaho, and you can find me at strangerbridgerland.com.
It is always a pleasure when you are here, my friend. And I love your storytelling. I know the audience loves your storytelling as well. How could they not? And they're great books in order to add to yours. And don't forget, when you fly to Alaska, when you're flying over British Columbia, to give a wave. And I will wave back. I promise, John. Yes. Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, Swamp Dweller will be here with us. Then Robin Haynes will have the Crypted Q&A. So if you're in our YouTube site, make sure you get your questions ready. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Great job tonight, my man. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That was a blast. Tell everybody. Thank you. those that
they
get
can
to
hear
see us
you
on YouTube.
Apologize
Thank you,
for the snafus there technically, but
Yeah.
we still put together a great show. So thank you very much, bud.
Yeah, thanks. Have a good one, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, let Filthy know, because your new book is about to come out, correct?
Yeah, next week. So
okay, let's try and get you on around Halloween for some spooky stories.
that'd be perfect. So
John, appreciate you.
Yeah, thanks so much, Dave. I really appreciate you letting me come on. So
have a good night, buddy.
You too. Bye.
All right. John Olsen, everybody. Davey Crotchkick, how you doing? Wee Runa, nice to see you. Be right back. Stay up there. There we go. All right. Let's bring in little Robin Haynes. There she is. Can you speak for a second?
Sure can. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I am doing great.
Nice. Me too. Me too.
That's good.
All right. I'm just getting some questions lined up here. Little Jimmy Goodall in the chat room. Jim, we will move the dates for you. How about that one? We will move the dates just for you, Jim Goodall. I will let Merle know. Thank you to Deborah Rooney with a hat trick, Mel WD40, T-Bone, and Natasha for the lovely super chats tonight. Greatly appreciate your love and support. And we're going to get going here in about 5 seconds. Mute you, Robin. Here we go with hour number 3 of Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. We appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Hey, we want to say hello to everyone tuning us in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. And what do we got here? We got Ventifact. Ventifact is your password. Use it wisely, space travelers, as the Clam sets the password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. I went on a little hiking trip with my dad to Mount Shasta, California, a small town in Northern California near the Oregon border. Shasta is home to a potentially active volcano named, of course, Mount Shasta. There are many trails on Mount Shasta, so my father and I were excited to do some hiking. We drove up the side of the mountain to the parking lot in which one of the trails began. I believe it was called the Old Ski Bowl Trail. The landscape was a very barren incline, filled with rocks, boulders, dirt, and very few trees. About an hour into the trail, we came across a very odd assembly of these large boulders. They were arranged in a circle. We thought it was strange, but we continued. If you look up pictures of the trail, you'll see much smaller rocks arranged in patterns and circles. My father and I only encountered 3 people. At least, that's what they appeared to be at first. The first 2 were a father and son. We met them on a steep incline that went along the wall of the cliff, that when we would switch back, it would take you to the top of the cliff. We stopped and said hello, talked about the trail, and then went our separate ways. Here's where it gets weird. My dad and I started walking up the incline for about 2 minutes. I turned around and I saw the father and son were incredibly far down the trail, almost like they had teleported. It should have taken them at least 20 minutes to get down there from where they were. But somehow, in only about 2 minutes, they have gotten down way further than possible. To this day, I have absolutely no idea how that could have happened. There was no one else on that trail at that point, and I could see the color of their clothes from the distance, so I knew it was them. I pointed it out to my dad. We thought it was weird, but we didn't want to dwell on it, so we just kept on moving. And here's where it starts to get much weirder. As we reached the top of the cliff, there was another strange rock arrangement that was off to the side of the trail. This time, there were far more rocks than before, and they were now arranged in rows, almost like gravestones. We continued the trail and reached another sort of incline with a switchback to reach the top of another cliff. We reached a point where we would need climbing gear to continue, so we decided to head back. When we turned around, I saw a man standing among the rocks, staring at us intently. He was wearing a button-up shirt, cargo shorts, and a wide-brimmed straw hat. He was at a distance where I should have been able to make out his facial features, but it was almost like he didn't have any, like his face was just flesh and skin. I pointed him out to my dad, and the man quickly ducked down behind a boulder and was peering out at us over the top of the boulder. It seemed almost playful, like a child trying to hide. For a few moments, I was almost out of it. I have no recollection of what was going on. According to my dad, I just started walking towards the man in the hat. My dad was calling to me, "Joshua, Josh, what are you doing? Where are you going?" And then I came to. I was standing right at the edge of the cliff. It was a huge drop, enough to kill me or seriously injure me. My dad grabbed me and pulled me back onto the trail. He told me to stay put. My dad went down to the boulders to search for the man, but he wasn't there. There was nowhere for him to go except down or up the trail. It didn't make any sense. He just simply disappeared. I have no idea what was going on that trail, and I have no explanation for it. I've told this many times to family and friends, and no one has an explanation. I've done my fair amount of research and found similar stories about encounters with a man with no facial features wearing a hat. I've also read that Native American tribes from that area viewed Mount Shasta as a holy site. They believed it could act as a portal to other dimensions, and that it was guarded by spirits who would potentially harm anyone who tried to go up the volcano. If anybody has had any similar experiences or any insight at all, I would love to hear.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another creepy story. If you want more just like that, head on over to YouTube, type in Swamp Dweller, hit subscribe, ring that bell. He has thousands of shows and stories just like that. Time for Robin. Robin Haynes, it is great to have you back on the show. How are you, my dear?
I'm good. How are you, sweetie? I missed you guys last week.
Yeah, I know. We missed you too. And, we had a great time this past weekend out at Flight 21 and our investigation.
I had the phone next to me. I was waiting for the call, but I didn't hear from you.
Well, there's a reason for that. We actually brought in one of the people from our First Nations area here. And she actually brought her drum and started singing while she was there.
Wonderful.
It was, I've heard Indigenous drumming before and singing, and to me, it's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And it is extremely powerful.
Oh, yeah.
And being in that area, it was nice. It was calm. And then when she started singing and drumming, or drumming then singing, the energy of the entire place shifted. It was like everything was quiet. Okay, and her drumming was echoing through the trees, and all of a sudden it felt like, when you're in a real muggy day, when all of a sudden everything you could feel the pressure of the air all around you. It was instant when she started singing. And she was saying, like, the first song she sang two, and we recorded both of them. And we will be getting them on video here ASAP for you guys. But she stated that it was extremely emotional, the amount of spirit that came through the trees to be with her. And it just wasn't human spirit. It was spirit of everything.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely everything. And I'll tell you, it was very powerful. very powerful with that. And I can't wait for you guys to see the video of it happening. But the other cool part about it was that she actually channeled what she called a Sasquatch elder.
Oh,
and
nice.
she started speaking in a language that she had never heard before. It was powerful. And during that channeling session, I actually asked her, I said, "Can I ask questions?" And she's like, "Yes, you may." And I actually asked about what were the voices in the forest. Through the channel, the being would not tell us what they were, but just said it wasn't good.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, I had so many goosebumps on my body, Robin.
Oh my gosh.
Oh my goodness. It was so powerful. So powerful.
I cannot wait to watch this video. It sounds incredible.
It was. And I'm not, without giving it away once it's cut, there is one part that's kind of scary and funny at the same time. And it ended up being nothing, thank goodness. But you'll have to see the video. I'm going to play like every author that comes on this show. You got to buy my book. It's in my book. I'm not going to give it away. It's in my book. Not every author. That's a lie. Okay, but most authors. And but this one, it was definitely a little eerie. It was eerie, but there were eyeballs all over us that night.
Oh, I bet. They love that. They absolutely love it. I had a friend years ago, I'm not going to say his name out of respect for him, that brought out his buffalo drums, the buffalo hide drums. And Igor Borsteff was staying at my house at the time. And so Igor and I, my children, and this friend of mine who was wonderful, and he brought them out. And it was actually wintertime, and we went out back in the snow and sat there, and he played. And the Sasquatch loved it. Like everything loved it. Spirits loved it. The dogmen loved it. The Sasquatch loved it. I mean, it just like the whole place just erupted. It just gives you such good energy.
Oh, yeah.
And it's phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal.
I agree with you. And it was to the point where I said to her, name is Lolly. And I said to Lolly afterwards, I said, "You can come out here anytime with us." Like it was such a game changer having her there that it was just very powerful. Very powerful. We did move the gifting site as you had asked, and we've moved it to the original gifting site of 2020. Nothing has moved so far, but even in that channeling session with Lolly, she said, when I asked, do you like the new gifting site? The elder said, "Yes, we do. We know where it is." Mm-hmm. And I'm paraphrasing here. I said, "Will we see things move there soon?" And they said, pretty much give it a little bit.
I just heard the words "give it time." I hand to God, just heard the words in my head say "give it time," and then you said "give it a little bit."
Yeah. So that's actually kind of cool because a lot of what she said was similar to what you were saying on everything, because the one thing that we try and do always is try and get some sort of confirmation of what is going on. And it's not that we don't trust you. It's not that we don't trust Lon Strickler or even Lolly for that matter, but it is a matter of just trying to make sure that, people who are not in the know can give the same information on their intuition. And that's always kind of important, Robin.
Oh, I agree 100%. I mean, verify as much as you can verify. I mean, I am full support of that. Absolutely.
What have you been up to recently?
Out in the woods. Always out in the woods. Kind of hanging out with the Sasquatch. I went to a friend of mine's place that lives in West Virginia, so I wanted to spend some time there before I moved to Texas. In fact, I literally got home a couple hours before the show. I've been driving all day through storms. So, yeah, so I had some work that I've been working on. I have a couple projects that I'm working on that I needed to try to get wrapped up as much as possible. And so it's been a work week, an absolute work week.
We have some questions that are coming up here. I want to get to those right off the bat here. And T-Bone is asking, did you see the last video? If so, what did you have to say about it? That's where Tim and I kind of go in and we start getting this strange skunk smell.
Oh, that would probably be from them. Do you know, and actually, T-Bone, I have not seen it. I am so sorry. I have not seen it.
It's okay.
I have been working like crazy the last 2 or 3 weeks. And so I have been swamped. Like, I'm not even getting full night's sleeps right now. But what I will say is I want to watch it. Like, he gets the best videos, and the stuff that comes on there is just incredible.
Well, let me explain what happened. Is we were in an area where there was some, right by the gifting site.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty open ground underneath the canopy of the gifting site. Now, the gifting site, we chose a beautiful tree for it years ago. Like this fir tree is old growth forest, and this tree is probably 110 feet tall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and real thick at the base, healthy, just.
Yeah, they like to climb it.
It is a gorgeous, gorgeous tree. But underneath the canopy, there's a bunch of smaller little, trees that are maybe 10, 12 feet tall.
Yeah.
And they're very thin and in between. And you can go on the video and check it on out.
I want to say something about the skunk smell real quick.
Yeah.
There are some that like the skunk smell. We have one that visits now and then, and we love him dearly. He's been hanging. He doesn't actually live by me. He's actually from Texas, and he bebops over every now and then. And that boy will take his skunks and rub them all over his body, and he loves it because he says now nobody can smell him. They can only smell the skunk. And when I first moved where I'm at now, like the very night I got here, I had 5 dogs at the time, and I had let them out to go to the bathroom. They were in their pen. And all of a sudden, all I could smell outside was skunk smell. And I thought, oh, God, we've got a skunk back there. They're getting sprayed. Went to bring the dogs in, and the dogs smelled fine. They didn't smell skunky at all. And I'm like, how is that possible? Because it was so strong. And then it dawned on me because he had never been here before. And I asked him if that was him, and he said, yes, it was. But I mean, the skunk smell on them is astronomical, but they will use it. Some of them like it. They say it masks their own smell. And if people smell a skunk, it makes them run away. So don't be surprised. A lot of the females we know use a lot of flowery smells, especially some of them when they're pregnant, like that floral smell. But yeah, they will use a skunk, and they will literally take that skunk and rub it all over their body.
Here's the interesting part about this area and the caribou area as well. There are very few places where there is actually skunks around. and in talking to a couple people, they have never seen skunks that high up in the mountain.
Oh, how funny.
So, I mean, our elevation is, I think, 1,600 meters above sea level. So that's probably 3,400 feet, if not more.
Yeah, so boys finding some skunks to rub all over them.
Well, but here's where it gets a little stranger. The skunk smell, when we walked into that area to the gifting site, it was not there. And as we started to walk out, the smell was there. Now we can see freely around us what is around us, and we did not see a skunk whatsoever.
Yeah,
and
he had it on him.
So we started walking around the area, and remember, it's very open. There's not a lot of hiding spots in the gifting site. Okay. And when you go on the video, you'll see what we're talking about. And we walked into an area, no smell. We walked back to the area where the original skunk smell was. It is now disappearing. Skunk smell doesn't disappear that quickly.
It doesn't.
So we start to walk out, and we check another area on the exit out, which is still out in the open in the trees. And there it is again.
Mm-hmm.
And after a couple minutes, it disappears. So we go back to base camp. And while we're walking to base camp, I find a hawk's feather in a tree. Get back to base camp, literally at base camp for about 16, 17 seconds. And then we're like, I said, Tim, we got to go back. This hawk's feather needs to go at the gifting site.
Mm-hmm.
It is not meant for us. We're not taking this home. It needs to go in the tree at the gifting site. So we walk all the way back. No skunk smell.
When that one that was here came up, and it was so strong, like it literally burned my nostrils, and I could taste it down in my throat. And I went and I brought the dogs, and that one dog had even the faintest odor of a skunk on it. I went outside, and everything, there was no smell anymore. And then I heard him walking up through the bushes, and as he got closer, then I could smell it again. But there's a big difference when a skunk walks through brush and when an 8-foot tall Sasquatch comes in. I mean, a skunk isn't going to shake bushes and part them with his hands, and that kind of thing. But it was definitely on him because it never was anywhere else. It wasn't around the house. It wasn't in the garage, and the dogs had come in through the garage door, and it wasn't anywhere on the dogs. But when he got close to the house, I could smell it. And it literally, he walked, he was cloaked, and it came out of the bushes, and you could see where the footprints were going in the grass. And that's where the smell was. Like, there was literally no skunk there. I think since we've been here, I've never seen a skunk here. Other than breeding season, the second year we were here, we smelt them a little bit. And I'm not convinced that was even a skunk because I never have had a sighting of one.
Is the skunk smell on a Sasquatch, is it a marker?
I don't think it's a marker. I think some of them like certain smells. I know when I asked that particular one, because he's worn these skunk smells for years, and it's so overpowering. A skunk doesn't smell as bad as this boy does. And he's sweet as can be. And I did ask him, I said, why the skunk smell? And he said, because people will run away from the smell of a skunk. And he said, it won't smell like me, so they don't know it's me. And I thought, you know what? That actually makes sense. It actually makes sense. But he generally likes the smell. He says, I think I smell good. I was like, all right, that's what you like then. But when he was gone, there was no residue of skunk odor anywhere. And, with skunks, if they spray, that residue from that odor is there for a while.
I agree. That's what's got Tim and I baffled, is this skunk smell keeps disappearing.
Yeah, no, it's on one of them. I would really believe that because I've seen it happen before. I've had other ones that have come up and smelled like that, or I had one that came up and smelled like fish.
Hold that thought. Fishy smells off of Sasquatch. With Robin Haynes of the Crypted Q&A right after this. This is Spaced Out Radio. Your host, Dave Scott. All right, Robin, we are clear.
Sounds good. Yeah, I'm amazed at the smells. I mean, and the flower smells that the females put on are just, they're gorgeous. They smell so good. And it's like you're looking around looking for the flowers that they came on and you can't find it. You know, and it's just them.
It is a weird one, that is for sure.
The only way I can think of that he got that much of a smell, number one, they can project anything. They can project emotions. They can project smells. I mean, I knew somebody that was out in the woods and he's like, it smells like coffee out here, like fresh brewed coffee out in the middle of the woods. There's no way there's coffee. I mean, they can project any smell that they want. It doesn't matter what it is. But in some cases, they will literally rub that skunk all over their body. And like I said, the one smelled like fish. We didn't live far from a lake, but he would have had to rub the fish all over his body to smell fishy. But as soon as they leave, the smell's gone. It doesn't linger. But then you're left to wonder, is this a projection? Or is this something that they really did rub all over? Because they can project any smell. I can remember one day being out in the woods and saying, God, I was so hungry for bacon. And within a couple of minutes, all I could smell was fresh cooked bacon. And there was nobody out there. Nobody was cooking bacon. There was no fire pit. There was no other people. I was walking around and I could smell bacon. And I'm like, okay, guys, thanks. You know, and when they wandered off, so did the smell.
Well, that's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
When you start having bacon smell, that's always a good thing.
I wish they just cooked for me, then I wouldn't have to worry about it. But they used to bring me possums to eat. I'd leave snacks out for them, and they'd be like, you shared your food with me, I'm going to share food with you, and they would leave me possums. They would be either caged up some way or stuck somewhere, so they couldn't leave. And I was like, guys, why do you keep bringing me possums? And I love possums. Not to eat, but I mean, I love them as far as an animal goes. I have a couple that will come right up to me out here, and they would leave them. Every time I left any gift for them, I'd go out there and there would be a possum, and it would be stuck so it couldn't get away.
We don't have possums up here.
Oh, they're so sweet.
I know. We had them back home, like where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't have them here.
When I used to sit on my porch to do your show, Dave, there was a possum that would come up every single night and sit next to me on that porch. When he first started coming, he was sick, so I put medicine in cat food, in the soft cat food, and he ate it and he got better. And he would come up every single time I'd go out there to do your show, and he would come up and sit next to me and just watch me.
Aw. That's kind of cute.
Yeah. I just love all the interaction you're getting out there. It's phenomenal.
It's crazy talk.
No, but the crazy talk is the reality.
Yeah. And the main thing, out of everything, Tim and I are having so much fun. Mm-hmm. We are literally having so much fun with it. And it's just, it's just something great to look forward to.
Oh, yeah.
And you want to share it with the world, but on the flip side, you got to be careful.
Oh, yeah.
Because the more popular what we're doing gets, the more chances of people going in there is. Yeah. And you don't want them to kind of destroy what you've got built. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. It's a slippery slope. I mean, for years, I was so afraid to have anybody come to my house. At that point, they were walking around uncloaked around my yard all the time and, walking up behind the house, and they were doing all kinds of stuff. They were playing games, and, my grandkids were seeing them. The kids were seeing them. I was seeing them. And it was like, I was so excited about what was going on, but I was afraid to let people come to my house.
Yeah.
Because you get protective of them.
100%. 100%. Questions for Robin? Put them in capital letters. And breakfast for dinner never sounds good, Tim Mothman. So stop that right off the bat. Good morning, Philip Blair. How are you? Thank you to Deborah Rooney with a hat trick. Mel WD40, T-Bone, Natasha, and Tim Mothman for the great super chats. We're going to enter into the final half hour here in a second. And I think we got like 7 seconds.
I love the background. You got a new background. I'm loving it.
Thank you. Here we go, Robin. We've rounded third. We're heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. My name is Dave Scott. Thank you very much for tuning us in and enjoying the woo with us. Robin Haynes and the Crypted Q&A coming up in a second. But first, we want to remind you that if you missed most of this show or others, our archives are always free on YouTube or any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. I'm Dave Scott. She's Robin Haynes. This is a Cryptid Q&A. And I want to ask you about, like, right before the break, we were talking about Sasquatch and the communication and skunk smells. And I know you had just a little bit more to finish on that.
Oh, no, it's just they can. I mean, not only is it a matter of rubbing things on, they can do what they call projection. They can project a feeling, a thought, or an emotion. It's just like a lot of people feel like what I call the love bubble, where they'll project the feeling of love on you, which is a much deeper love than we have. And it's amazing. But they can also do smells. And I know people that have been out of the woods and all of a sudden they're smelling all these crazy things that there's no way it's out there. I've had it happen myself, and they're doing it. I don't know how they do it. It's all part of the frequency and the energy stuff that they do, but they absolutely can do it. So if you're out in the woods, and multiple people have had this happen, and they start smelling certain foods, or, they'll say, all of a sudden I feel like I can smell like burnt wood, like a campfire. There's no campfire anywhere around. Or if they smell a certain animal and that animal isn't around, but yet that smell will stay with them as they're walking through the woods, because you've got a Sasquatch that's cloaked that's following you around.
Right.
But they can absolutely project that.
It's crazy when you think about that.
Oh, I know. It is. It's unbelievable.
So my next question to you regarding the habits of Sasquatch.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, they are in for the long haul of living in the forest, and that's their domain. That's where they are.
Yeah.
But when you start having human interaction, like with what we're trying to create, what many others have tried to create, what is the time limit before they actually get comfortable with you?
There actually is no time limit. It's an individual basis from whichever one you're working with. I have had some that were up close, front and center, and standing right next to me immediately. And I have had others that it took years to get them to even come close. It is the individual and what they are willing to do and how much they want that connection with us. It also comes down to every clan has laws, okay? And the leader of that clan will also have a separate set of laws and rules for that specific clan. Now, there's been some of the ones I have here, I've got 3 clans that wander in and out. 2 of those clans, they are not allowed contact. So they'll play in the bushes, they'll run across the yard, they'll peek in the window or whatever, but they are not going to take food. They are not going to actually have interaction. We see them now and then, we hear all the time, but they aren't going to go there. That third group, on the other hand, is Chatty Cathy. They will talk, they will interact, they will do whatever you want them to do. But again, it comes down to the individual Sasquatch, and it comes down to what will the leader of that that clan allow them to do.
I can see that. All right, let's go to another question here. Let's go to where are we here? Let's go to Blue Cruise, who's asking, can a person's consciousness get stuck or trapped during a remote viewing session?
What an excellent question. I'm not going to say it can't. I've never known anybody to have that problem. I haven't. I'm not going to tell you that you can't. Just because I haven't heard of it does not mean it's not possible. But usually when you get into the consciousness, you're talking about a higher frequency, a higher energy. And, you know, when you're actively working on this stuff, I don't really think so. I think if it was going to get stuck, it would be a matter of it would just back out and everything would shut down. You know, as far as during a remote viewing session, I'm a remote viewer. I have been since I was little. I have never found at any time that I ever got stuck. I think the worst it ever got was, you know, maybe I would try to see something that wouldn't be as clear as I would want. So I would like stop the connection, do some grounding, do some energy work, whatever, get that. You know, and for me, for whatever reason, I'll shake my arm, shake my body, get that energy flowing, and then go back and do it again. And then I'm right there and I'm on task. So I'm not going to say it's not, because just because I haven't heard of it doesn't mean it's not possible. But I don't really feel like you're going to be in a stuck position. I think it's either going to work or you're out of it.
What's the strangest encounter you've had with another person during a remote viewing session?
Oh, wow. Seeing things that they would probably prefer that I didn't see, that, you know, could be a little more intimate that they wanted. They would ask me, like, you can do a remote viewing where you rewind time. So it's like running a movie backwards and then you can play it forward. And I had somebody that said, you know, will you remote view this? Because I was with my spouse and we had this problem and, you know, we weren't getting along. And he says, I said this, I said, I didn't. Will you rewind time to it? And I'm like, I did rewind the time, but I got them like before the fight. And so that was a little bit embarrassing. Anything to that, to people, when they want you to remote view, they do want you to do it, but they don't always believe that you're going to get what you do. So you end up getting more information than makes them comfortable. Sometimes, not always. Sometimes they just think it's really cool.
Have you ever seen another remote viewer while you were remote viewing?
Not really. I haven't really tried to. Like, my focus and my intent, I bring up my intent and what I'm looking for, and it's almost like you're going to astral project yourself there. I mean, you're not at that point, but I mean, I do astral projection as well, but I really haven't had that issue. Usually when I'm working with somebody one-on-one, and I have a lot of clients that will call me and say, listen, you know, there's a problem here. Will you look at this? Will you look at that? In fact, some of my clients, you know, I'm teaching them how to remote view and they're doing the same thing. But I've not seen another remote viewer at the same time I was. I think I probably could. I don't think it's something that you can't do. You have to focus your intent on what you want to see and where you want to watch it at.
That's interesting. I never would have thought about that.
Yeah, that's a good question.
See, in my remote view sessions, I actually had a session once where it was just, I shouldn't even call it a session, but I was talking to Science Bob one day on the telephone, and we actually ended up picking up that our conversation was being remote viewed, and I could actually see the person.
Yeah.
And I was describing to Bob what he looked like, and Bob obviously didn't know him, but we knew this guy was, you know, in some sort of government program, as weird as that may sound.
No,
and then Bob
weird.
had one, I picked up on a remote viewer outside of Bob's house while he was sitting at his kitchen table, and I'd never seen Bob's house in Alabama. Didn't know.
I think that's
wonderful. I said, Bob, tell me, so you got a big tree behind the window that you're sitting at? And he goes, yeah. I said, okay, can you do me a favor and take a look, and on the left-hand side, tell me if you see a person there. And sure enough, there was a shadow of a person standing right there, and it was another remote viewer.
I told you had abilities. Now, I have picked up, I mean, I have a phone tap on my phone. I've had it there for several years. In fact, I have more than one phone, and they all have taps on them now, as well as my computer, tablets, whatever. And there will be times where I will get that psychic connection of someone listening more intently and not just doing the tap and the recording, where somebody's actually on and listening. But when I do that, the option I have is to search to see who it is.
Right.
My personal choice is I don't want to give them any more ways to connect to me. I've had ETs that have come in on the line. I've had a couple different times where I've had reptilians that have come in, and you'll hear them hissing or whatever. And, I can follow it. I can go right there and I can see what it looks like. I can see what it is or whatever. But the thing of it is, then it gives them time to connect. And I think the one time I did do it with one of the reptilians. I wasn't looking at it as it was remote viewing me. I just knew it was on the line, and I was able to see it and, pick out what it looked like and that kind of thing. But yeah, I generally, for me, because of how hard I get watched, I would break the connection myself,
right,
just because I don't want to give them anything else. If you give them any attention, if you think of them, if you let them into your mind, they can connect with you because they go through the collective consciousness. And so I'm just super, super careful.
Well, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, like if I'm mind speaking with something and it's one that's new, and I pick up, because I'll immediately do an energy signature to find out if it's something good or bad. If I pick up anything nefarious, anything that doesn't feel 100% pure, I don't take the time to say, I'm not going to talk to you, because that gives it time to attach. You break the connection immediately. And by breaking the connection, I will think of anything. Peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, taking the dog for a walk, anything to get that consciousness away from that target that's trying to connect with me. And then I will immediately go to turning up the TV or music, and upbeat music, because you can hide out in the white noise, and it scrambles the tie that they have. You can literally lose yourself in white noise and they can't find you. And so that gives me time to build up my frequency and my energy, and then I just blast the hell out of them.
Right. That sounds like fun.
Sometimes.
That sounds like fun. Let's go to T-Bone, who's asking, is our interest in UFOs pissing off the Sasquatch?
No, I don't think so. I think we are looking at a couple things. I have certain groups that are clans that, when certain groups of aliens are over and the UFOs are over, they're very happy. They're very excited to see them. Then I have other groups and clans that I work with in other states that the aliens that they've had to deal with are bad. And if you bring them up, they don't want anything to do with them. They're Occam. As far as they're concerned, they're Occam. They want them gone. They want nothing to do with them. So I've never found where it makes them mad as far as our interest in it. It comes down to if what we're paying attention to as far as a UFO or an alien, is it a good one? Is it a bad one? Because they have just as many good and bad ones as we have good and bad people. If you're playing with the good stuff, they're okay with it. I don't see where it's going to upset them at all. The Bosnia pyramids, when it started, and this was years ago, started omitting sounds from it. And I took that recording, they had put it out on YouTube, and I played it for my clan. They were so excited. You would have thought it was Mardi Gras. Like, they were all excited and hooting and hollering, and they were happy. You could feel the joy coming off of them. But then there would be other times that a negative UFO would come over and they would warn me to hide. But as far as getting pissed at us, no, not at all. Not that I've seen anyway.
Now, obviously, Sasquatch, like humans, are pretty much the same when it comes to ETs and what they want, mm-hmm. and how they want to do things. So I'm curious in regards to that, what kind of species of ET are the ones, causing Sasquatch to say, I'm getting the hell out of here?
Well, you have to understand that for like the reptilians, there's a ton of different ones, some good, some bad. Same thing with the grays. Not all grays are bad, not all grays are good. It just depends. I mean, there's like 1,000 different kinds of grays. So it depends which one. Now, I personally, like a lot of people say, the Manus people are really good. And I think that there probably are some that are. The one that attacked me was not anybody that I wanted to have lunch with. Like, he was not a good guy. And the Sasquatch were not eager to have him around. Now, when I had, and I think it was a Palladian ship, and I actually have it on video, and it's up on YouTube, not on my channel. Duke Sullivan has it on World Bigfoot Radio, and I've played it on other shows as well. MUFON has vetted this film out. In fact, they used it at their top symposium a year ago. And we believe that to be a Palladian ship. And the Sasquatch here were enthralled with it. They were thrilled. You know, they were right up front and center and watching it. So I think, you know, they know which ones are good and bad. There's so many different kinds. Like, it'd be nice to say all the reptilians are bad and they don't like the reptilians. And I don't think they're overly fond of the reptilians, to be honest with you. They seem to be more nervous around them. But not all of the reptilian races are bad. I mean, realistically, there are some races of them that are good. You know, I mean, I'd like to say they're all bad, but they're not. And the same thing with grays. The grays, I encountered tall grays and short grays when I was 4. They never hurt me. But yet later on in life, there were at times during different abductions that I had small grays there that did. You know, it's different.
So let me cut you off right there for a second, because for people who may not know what it's like to be abducted, what does it feel like?
When it starts, your body just, it's almost like it doesn't accept it. Now, when I was taken at age 4 and I was on the ship, they would talk to me like through mind speak, because they wouldn't move you could just only hear it in your head. And they had said I'd been there before. I should have been frightened. Most people, you either are so curious about it, and then it turns to fear. Especially, you know, like I've had testing done on my reproductive organs, you know, the fetal implants, that kind of stuff. That was terrifying to me. Absolutely beyond terrifying and painful. Other experiences with them, it wasn't like I wanted to be there, but they were kind. You know, I mean, I think everybody's experience is different, but it plays with your head, because your mind is trying to tell you that it's not reality when you physically can feel that it is reality. And the one thing that people aren't prepared for is when you're brought back. And this has happened to me, I would say, for every 10 abductions, and I've been taken on and off my entire life. I would say 75 to 85% of the time, you come back and you're on autopilot. Your brain is thinking, but your body is moving almost like it's a robot, and it's going through the motions, and you don't even know why you're going through the motions. And meanwhile, in your head is pure chaos. And it generally takes, in my experiences, it's taken about 3 days for that to wear off. And then at the end of the time that it wears off, for me, it's almost like a panic. You know, I was taken one time, well, I was a couple times, but when I was here at this house, and when I woke up, my clothes had been taken off and put on inside out, and there was a lot of physical evidence. My phone was broken. There's a lot of physical evidence, to say the least. And I was fine for a moment, and then it dawned on me what happened. I could not quit hyperventilating. Right. I think everybody reacts in a very different way, but it is very common in my personal experiences where you get this, where inside your brain is thinking, but yet you don't understand why your body is non-reactive. I had a ship come down outside in Michigan in my yard, and I remember watching it land, and I was like in a trance watching this land. And it was almost an hour and 45 minutes to 2 hours later that I was back where I was before, and the ship wasn't there anymore. And I went in the house, and my brain it was like I was talking to myself, and I was in pure panic mode. But I realized very quickly that my body acted like everything was fine. I walked in the house. I said to my kids, everybody have their showers, homework done, snack, whatever. They said, yeah, Mom, we're all good. I said, okay, I'm going to go to bed early, which I never went to bed before them. And I stayed in that state for 3 days. And then I had taken them to school. I walked in the door of the house, the same door that I came in that night that I was taken, and I could not quit hyperventilating. And it was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And even if you don't remember everything that was done, that shock wears off. It's almost like a trancing, like the Sasquatch do.
Very interesting. We got about 1 minute to go here, Robin. I want to say a big thank you for you, obviously, coming on in. Once again, we love it when you're here. Tell everybody where they can find you and get a hold of you.
You can find me on Facebook under Robin Haynes, Haynes, no middle initial. Or if you want to book a session, you can go on my website, which is www.paranormal-empowerment.com.
It is always good, and I can't wait to talk to you next week to fill you in. But make sure you go watch our videos.
Oh, I plan on it. Those videos are phenomenal.
I kind of like them. They're a lot of fun. They're a lot of fun for Tim and I. So we're having just a grand old time right there. So it is always good to have you here. Robin Haynes, everybody, as we get ready to say goodnight to her. And now we just await for the lovely music of Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL. And we're going to wait a little bit longer. You know why? Because I've had the show from heck where I cannot seem to time anything out properly tonight. But that's okay. Robin, you are the best. We will talk to you next week on the Mighty SOR. And now we're going to get those horns up as we get ready to say goodnight to each and every one of you. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL, rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, LGAB, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X. Remember, this show is copyright by Bigfoot Broadcasting Limited. Thank you so much for choosing to share your evening with us, because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo Train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Sorry about the snafus tonight, everyone. Sorry about that. $22nd? Yeah. There we go. Who's on tomorrow night? Hi, Angela Thompson. People can tell when you Taco Bell. I wish I had some Taco Bell. I love Taco Bell. I do. I love the Taco Bell. I do. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do? Love me some Taco Bell. All right. Tomorrow night on the show, Paul Nugent is going to join us. Talk about unique UFO contact. It's going to be fun. So make sure you check it on out. Thank you tonight to Deborah Rooney with a hat trick, Tim Mothman and his goatee, Mel WD40, T-Bone, and Natasha for the great super chats tonight. I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to go relax and eat some ice cream. But for the rest of you, we say good night. Don't forget to hit subscribe, ring that bell, and don't forget to share and tell a friend. Because we'd love it if you did. We would. I can guarantee you that we would. Have a good night, everybody.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
You need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.